Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, editor, publisher, and founder of SpartanNation.com. The best place on the internet to find Michigan State Spartan coverage is at Michigan State Spartans on SI, SpartanNation.com. Joined by now our terrific Michigan State beat writer, the great Jacob Cotsonika, who does a great job for us. Jacob joins us in after a long night covering football and a long morning covering all of this. And we're here to break it down. Michigan State moves quickly, hires Pat Fitzgerald, former Northwestern star, to be their new football coach. The hiring at the time of this taping is not yet finalized. However, I want to read to you what a source inside the Michigan State administration said to us when we broke the final that they're in the process of finalizing a deal. This is what they said to us at Spartan Nation. Quote, Pat Fitzgerald not only understands the Big Ten, he understands and has demonstrated an ability to develop players. We are finalizing a deal and feel like this is a home run. He knows the Michigan State landscape well. He embodies the work ethic and culture of our university and state, unquote. This is a very interesting hire. It's a good hire. A lot of people thought he was going to go to Penn State. I can confirm for you he did have discussions with Penn State. There was high interest there from them, but the Spartans, Jay Batt, went right in and bam, made a quick move, made a surgical cut on Smith, and pivoted right to Fitzgerald. Jacob, your thoughts. We're going to talk about the positives, potential negatives, and break it down. Your thoughts on the positives of bringing in a Pat Fitzgerald.
Well, again, it's a coach with a ton of experience. He's a coach who knows how to do more with less. I think that's the
Yes.
biggest positive about, like, he was at probably the toughest place in the nation to win at Northwestern. I think they surpassed Indiana for the most losses in the FBS of any program this season. Actually, again, it's Northwestern. They like school over there. Well, every university likes school at least a little bit, but Northwestern is Northwestern over there. But he was still able to, put together a very respectable program. I think I was looking through his stats when the news came out. They finished in the AP top 25 5 times. They made 10 bowl games in 17 total years there. You can kind of project that now to Michigan State, where all indications seem to show that he's going to have a ton of donor support. The donors seem to be very excited about this move as well. And he's going to have some financial backing, and he needs to have some financial backing because we'll get to the negatives, but he's going to have to bring in a heck of a ton of players through the portal this offseason. But I personally, I was kind of like, I was a bit on the fringe about my thoughts about the hire at first, but as I've kind of stewed on it over the last few hours, I think my opinion on it has increased.
I'll tell you an interesting fact, Jacob, that really said a lot to me. I texted about 15 coaches in the Midwest because I've been doing this for decades with the Michigan State, just guys at schools that produce great players. People in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, people in Ohio, lots in Ohio, and I asked them just what are your thoughts? Every single one responded. Every single one responded in an incredible way. Let me read for you a juggernaut school. This is a school that every year is putting guys at the biggest of the universities. This is what he said. Quote, it was disappointing to me when I had guys I knew I couldn't send to Pat because they were guys that were bigger than Northwestern. I always felt bad about that. Now in the NIL era with him at Michigan State, there's no guy I coach that Michigan State will not be legit because these kids trust me. And when they ask me, I'm going to tell them I've never sent a kid to Pat that didn't have an amazing experience in football, in the classroom, and as individuals. So happy for Pat in Michigan State. That says a lot.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and I think that's kind of the national reaction. I just think you've seen most people you hear about things like, yeah, good for Michigan State, and I think I can't speak for Pat Fitzgerald, but you'd have to think, I think it's one thing that MSU is looking for is a guy who's going to be here for a long time. We've had this
Mhm.
cycle through the past couple of coaches, Mel Tucker situation's a whole nother thing, but Jonathan Smith's only here for 2 years. You're going to want some stability here. I think Pat
Yes.
Fitzgerald is going to appreciate that Michigan State is the school that's giving him officially giving him this second chance, and he was loyal to Northwestern for so long. Again, he's already has that track record of I'm sticking to my school. 17 years, and I know he was an alum over there as well. But I bet you he probably had some big time offers given how much he was winning over there.
Yeah, I agree. Let me share an interesting story with you, Jacob. You're a little bit younger. You may not remember this, but I mean, he had offers from Michigan that wanted him, Notre Dame that wanted him, turned them all down to stay there. I remember joking with Pat. He had gotten a big raise, a huge, which isn't a big one now, but it was a big one at the time. And I remember saying to him, we were sitting there visiting once. I think we were in Chicago at Big Ten Media Days. I said, any big plans? He said, I told my kids they could go to Walmart and pick out any toy they wanted. So that's, I mean, that is the kind of guy that he is. In fact, let me just tell you, I literally just got a text from a high school coach that I had not responded to me. I told you I'd heard from 15. This is the 16th. This is a Detroit area coach. Quote, so happy for Michigan State. So happy for Pat Fitzgerald, one of the absolute best coaches I've ever dealt with. And as you know, they all come here. This was a good day for Michigan State, unquote. That's a and that coach especially is a big one. And so he had those opportunities. Now, I can tell you this, Jacob, in the process, about a month ago, there was a lot of schools that had fired coaches early, and Fitzgerald was getting talked to by all of them. And the one thing he kept reiterating to everybody is the school that's hiring me is getting me. I'm not looking to go anywhere else. And wherever that school would have been that he would have talked, that he would have stayed with, that's his mindset. I love that about him. I love his loyalty. Okay, let's switch now. There are some question marks, and those are legitimate question marks. I think it's a good hire. So I know you said, hey, I did my research. I think it's a good hire, but it also doesn't mean that there isn't some hurdles he's going to have to overcome. Let's talk about those real quick.
Well, first of all, it's just going to be the off season. Just the getting out of the gate at Michigan State. There's going to be so many people coming in and out of the program, and Fitzgerald doesn't kind of have that natural advantage of being a active head coach. He doesn't have a staff that he can just move from one place to the other, like kind of Jonathan Smith did, where he just had everyone from Morgan State follow him. He's going to have to basically handpick guys from all over the country, which that takes a lot of work, a lot of time and energy. And then once you get to January, he's going to have to probably, I mean, generally these days, you're probably looking at 40, 50 transfers, like, because you're going to see a bunch of MSU players portal out because their coach, Jonathan Smith, got fired. And all the reactions you see on social media is like the players love Jonathan Smith. Didn't work out. I mean, everyone has their own opinion on Jonathan Smith, but the players clearly liked him. So you're probably going to see a lot of players go and leave. Recruits are going to probably decommit over the next couple of days as well. So you're going to be looking at basically a whole new team this offseason. So it's just that he's going to really have his work cut out for him immediately. But really, the main reason I wasn't really a fan of this hire at first was the end of his Northwestern tenure. I'm not talking about the hazing thing. It's just the because again he sued the school. They said he had no knowledge. There's no evidence that he had any knowledge of what was going on over there. But it was the last two seasons. NIL got introduced into college football for the first time in those last two seasons, and they went 3-9 and 1-11. I mean, it's a 4-20 record, and that's not even. I didn't even bother to look at how many conference wins that is because 4-20 isn't going to really do you any favors. But I mean, you look at Jonathan Smith; he gets fired for going 9-15 in over a 2-year span, and then you plug in a coach who finished his career at his last stop at 4-20, and just kind of raises your eyebrows a little bit. It's a bit apples to oranges with Northwestern and Michigan State as far as expectations and resources. But when you have this much success before the NIL era, before the transfer portal became what it is right now, where you can kind of have kids develop over 4 or 5 years, and now they can swap out every year. And then when that kind of starts, and then Northwestern falls off the cliff a bit, it's a bit of a question mark to me. And I'm going to be very curious. That might be what that might be what I ask him during the introductory press conference about those last two seasons at Northwestern.
All right, let's turn the page a little bit and let's look at the future. I think what you're looking at is 2026 is going to be a rebuilding year. There's going
Mhm.
to be so much. But if Michigan State steps to the pump and gets him the money that he needs in NIL, I think the Michigan State can clearly look at 27 is going to be a year we expect to get back to a bowl and not go backwards. One of the things that Pat Fitzgerald had to deal with at Northwestern, he had lots of guys that wanted to go there that could not get in academically. And when he was at Northwestern, he loved he loved to recruit guys there and told me one time in particular, he didn't mind the standards because he knew he was getting smart football players. But the reality was, I know guys who wanted to go there who didn't have the grades. I have a very good friend whose son ended up going to a very powerhouse school, but wanted to go, couldn't get in. But this is a guy that understands recruiting, but now he's going to have the cash to go pay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a 1 year turnaround. But in today's era where you get to pay guys, you don't get a 2 year turnaround, do you?
Well, I think that's one of the main benefits you're seeing here is I think the one of the main gripes people had with Jonathan Smith, beyond the just the kind of the blank face, usually is that he's just not from here. He didn't really come in with the understanding about how to recruit Michigan, how to recruit Detroit, how to recruit the Midwest. Pat Fitzgerald's done that for many, many years. Like you said, you got that text from a coach in Detroit. Where's probably the number one city where Michigan State's going to be trying to make inroads and get some of that top talent? It's probably Detroit. It's the big in-state. It's the biggest city in the state. They're probably part of the reason they played a game in Ford Field is just to kind of increase their presence right there. But again, that's why I'm saying like the offseason is going to be real interesting because these days you can turn around a program in just one offseason. Indiana did it. It's just I'm not expecting Michigan State to play in the college football playoff next season, but it's just like it's a possibility. It's a thing if you just hit on a certain number of transfers, you can turn this thing around, immediately go 7-5, 8-4, and then build and build and build as you build prestige nationally and locally. So again, it's just these next coming months and weeks really for Pat Fitzgerald will really set the tone, I think.
Totally agree with you, Jacob. So, in the end, let's talk about the hire. I think there was a lot of good guys. There were people within the university that thought they were going to go get Key at Georgia Tech. Um, that was a consensus thought among a lot of people was that Key was going to be the guy. Bat played this extremely close to his hand. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I like about this hiring process. You're from a different generation than me, but I want to get your thoughts. I was impressed with how Bat was surgical. Boom, we do it, and here's my guy. This has been working on behind the scenes. Not a word leaked out. He kept his group tight. There were a lot of people close to Bat that thought Key at Georgia Tech. I can tell you there was members of the board of trustees. Jacob would tell you this, who thought it was Key. And so he did a great job. I was impressed with how Bat handled this. Let's give him his props. Your thoughts on that, Jacob?
I'm impressed with the hiring. The waiting so long for John. This might have been on purpose, really, to wait so long to fire Jonathan Smith, because it's like how often do you see these days a coach gets fired and then there's an external hire immediately afterwards? It's like you see Ole Miss right now. They hired internally on the same day, but that's internally. It's a lot different to go get someone who was at a different school previously, or like in Fitzgerald's case, hasn't officially been coaching for a couple of years now. So it's unusual. Obviously, that probably is a signal that this thing has been in the works probably for a couple of weeks. I don't know. That's not how these things work. You don't just call up a candidate and it's like, you want to come here? Yeah, sure. All right, cool, done deal. It's a lot more complicated than that. So obviously, there's probably been some back channeling going on over the past few weeks, and that's why I think they waited so long to fire Smith. Because if you fire Smith, that's when all the okay, who are they going to go get? Like me, I'm going to be like, okay, who makes sense? And that's when maybe Pat Fitzgerald starts leaking out over there, and it causes some confusion or something. So it's just like, boom, we're done with Smith. Boom, we're hiring Fitzgerald. There's no confusion at all. So I think that's the admirable part from what J Bat did. It was just a clean cut.
Yep.
We didn't prolong the process here.
So let me ask you this one. I know my opinion is J Bat since he's got here, this has helped him. I mean, he came in with credibility. I'm not implying that he doesn't have credibility. But the way he handled this, he was surgical, he was methodical. To me, sends his credibility even farther through the roof. Your thoughts on him?
Well, it's just I think for just his popularity with the fan base, he had to make a move here. It's a sign though. To me, it's just this is a sign that Michigan State's truly ready and fully set. Not that they never weren't serious about fully investing in football, but it's another signal like, hey, we want to win football games badly too, and we're ready to pay some top dollar for it. Because again, they're gonna have to pay Jonathan Smith, I think it's $32.5 million to not coach them now, minus whatever deal he gets at whatever his next stop is. But I doubt he'll probably be a coordinator at a Power Four school somewhere. I think I mean, he was a great coordinator at Washington and some other places as well beforehand. I'm sure he'll land on his feet in that regard. But it's going to cost MSU a lot of money. I don't think Fitzgerald, I mean, given that Fitzgerald didn't have a job before this, he might have a cheaper coaching contract. We don't know what the full details on that are yet. But, Michigan State seems fully ready to invest and try and build a winner here.
Last question for you, but let's talk to Spartan Nation itself. The point of the matter is, it doesn't matter if Nick Saban was coming and he wasn't. It doesn't matter who you hire to coach this team. In today's college football, if you don't have NIL, you're not competing. If Spartan Nation wants Pat Fitzgerald to win and win big, you've got to give him the money and the NIL. Right or wrong, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you hear it at every school across the country. They're always going to be asking for more and more money because that's how it is these days. It's kind of an arms race in that regard. I know, the average fan that's working a 9 to 5, that you're just trying to pay your bills off. It's kind of unsettling at times, but that's kind of the nature of the beast these days. I mean, I've never heard of anything saying that, Michigan State's necessarily lacking in NIL resources, and you can't really dip into the NIL fund to do a coaching buyout. But it's just, again, this is a sign though that they're ready to throw some money at this thing, and we'll see what the strategy in the portal was that is going to be, because that was one of the things that kind of perked my eyebrow last offseason is that Smith seemed to kind of be budget shopping in some regards. Some players, I was like, I don't know if that's truly a Big Ten level addition. So that again, that's what I'm going to be really curious to see. Again, there's going to be so many names popping up. I'll probably have a tracker for you guys on the site as well for this because it's just so hard for you, the fan. You're not covering this team full time like I am. It's so hard to keep track of just who's on the team. So it's definitely going to be needed to have a tracker on who's coming in and out of the program this offseason. But yes, NIL is going to be huge, and I think anytime you have a coaching change, again, there's just rumblings that the donors are happy with this move. I think you'll see an improvement in that regard.
I agree with you 110%. Remember, everybody, Jacob Cotsonika is our terrific beat writer at Spartan Nation. We've covered Michigan State for decades. We've been at the lead of every coaching search, every coaching hire, and Jacob is just another rung of success, doing a terrific job for you, Spartan Nation. Jacob, tell everybody where to find you on Twitter, please.
Yeah, it'll just be my name at Jacob Jacob, and then no space Cotsonika. Just Jacob Cotsonika on Twitter. It's a little tough to spell, but I think you'll be able to see my name right here on your screens as well. But yeah,
May be hard to spell, but it's a great follow if you're a Spartan fan. Thanks a lot, Jacob.
yeah, thank you.